Hi there. Welcome to the most recent episode of Screech Bomb Commentaries. I am David Brown Fabulous Lark. This is my co-host,
Callum, the good Doctor Young.
and Callum is going to introduce to you the two players and their two decks for this round of the Keyforge Premier League that we'll be delivering you commentary of today.
So we're going to start off with Xiar, Xiar. Don't know how to pronounce that,
I'd go
but
with
they are from
a jar.
Xiar. Let's say Xiar for now. They are from the London Urchins and qualified in the adaptive qualifier, so came through in the very format they'll be playing today. And the deck that they are playing is as a win, the Fatebreaker for the details. And I must say, it is one of the most degenerate combo decks that I have yet to witness in Keyforge.
It's a real rogues gallery of a lot of what people say is wrong with Keyforge.
Yes, we have the Brig combo, so double your Ember, I'll take all the rest of that.
Yep.
Binary Rupture, Interdimensional Graft.
Yep, I'll just do a
We
quick. So,
have
Binary Rupture, what it does is you play it, and each player gains Ember equal to the Ember in their pool. And then Interdimensional Graft, when the opponent forges, you give them all your Ember to your opponent. So essentially, you're giving them loads of Ember and then taking it all away when they
yeah,
forge to make them a very sad person.
we have Martian Generosity and Key Abduction.
Known as
Uh,
Jenka to many people.
Jenka.
Now, this is you lose all your Ember, draw two cards for each lost. So you'll draw a hell of a lot of cards. Generally, if this is played after the Binary Rupture Interdimensional Graft combo, you could be drawing a lot of cards. And then you will play Key Abduction, which returns each master card to its owner's hand, but more importantly, allows you to forge a key at +9 current cost, reduced by 1 for each card in your hand. Most of the time when you're playing a Genka deck, you're hoping to forge this key for 0 Ember, because you have so many cards in your hand. In the case of this, you would need at least 15 cards, but that is very achievable with a Martian Generosity.
And we also have, to go with that, two Mars Firsts and a Glixel Proliferator. So if you want to just drop those down after you play the Martian Generosity and the Key Abduction, you can just recycle both of those and do it again next turn
Yeah.
or in the future.
Yep, so Glycolor
And then
Proliferator allows you, when it's on a flank, to archive a Mars card from your discard pile. So when you reap, so you just reap a couple of times, put them in your archive, ready to go again next turn.
And then finally, we have Heart of the Forest, complete with a full moon and a Choda Hazari.
Yep, so Heart of the Forest. Generally, a lot of people would say this is one of their least favorite cards in Keyforge. A lot of people say this card should never have been printed. I think we're both in agreement in that camp. I like to kind of like give all cards a fair shake and say that all cards have their place in the game. Heart of the Forest is one that I can't really say that for, because it just creates a lot of situations in games that when neither person can win. Do you want to talk a bit about that, Callum?
I'd say my opinions on Heart of the Forest are, at its very best, it's my least favorite Keyforge card.
Callum, a lot less diplomatic than I was.
And in this game, it's going to allow Xiar to essentially, if they're behind, just stall out, prevent their opponent from forging any keys until they can set up either some sort of untamed Choda Hazri combination or some sort of Jenka situation.
Yep. So the text on the card you can read is each player cannot forge keys while they have more forged keys than their opponent. So what this means is, say, I have 2 keys forged and you have 1. I can't forge my final key until you forge your second key, which means you can essentially create a situation where you just don't go above 6 Ember and just kind of wait until you've got the perfect hand, or in this case maybe the perfect archive, and then just kind of once you're ready, allow yourself to forge your second key, and then on the same turn forge your third key.
So there's that potential stalling from Azawin. But on top of all of these degenerate combinations, it has 16 just raw Ember Pips on it and a speed of 16. So can just rush through and get ahead generally, at which point they're going to be looking at the Strange Gizmo or perhaps the Rustnor to take out the Heart of the Forest if they've played it. They might not need it, but if they've played it in just as a security, they could then potentially take it out.
That is also an option. They may just not even use the Heart of the Forest and just get so far ahead so fast, they'll just be like, I'm just going to try and win this game. The Heart of the Forest is generally going to come into play if they are falling behind. So the opponent has forged 1 or maybe 2 keys more than them, and they're just like, right, we're going to slam the brakes on this guy. Let me catch up, do some combos, and yeah.
So I think the question is what does their opponent have to stop this more than anything else?
Yeah, let's have a look now. So we have Honorius of Biosea Monument. Now, this is another interesting deck. In the firstly, it's 65 SAS, which is one of the lower SAS decks that you will see in the Keyforge Premier League. However, it's adaptive. So I think what oh, do you want to explain who's playing this deck actually, Callum?
Yes, it is Picmar from Team Archimedes, and he
Mm.
qualified by winning the UK Vault Tour.
Yeah, so it's a UK versus UK grudge match here, at the South Coast against London.
Um,
But so what
Team Archimedes in Leeds.
is it? Leeds? Oh well, the North versus the South, an even greater rivalry then.
Even more dramatic events.
Mm. So yeah, but an interesting thing here is though it's yet another kind of deck that is going to forge keys in non-standard ways. So you've got two redacteds. I've had the pleasure of playing against this deck before, and I can say that when they're out at the same time and you can see them both ticking up with every logo's turn, it is somewhat demoralizing.
Yeah, and this is rare enough that I've never seen a double redacted deck before. I didn't know they existed. I would have thought it was the sort of thing that was just prohibited by the algorithm.
Oh
But
no,
no.
they exist, Callum. They exist. And he also has another key cheat in the form of Obsidian Forge. So Obsidian Forge, similar in a way to key abduction, which is this it reduces the key cost and allows you to forge, but in this case, rather than cards, it allows you to sacrifice any number of friendly creatures, and then you can forge a key at 6 ember plus 6 ember to the current cost, reduced by 1 ember for each creature sacrificed this way. You'll then destroy Obsidian Forge. Now, something to note about Obsidian Forge, though, you can sacrifice friendly creatures without actually trying to do Obsidian Forge's Forge effect, and if it doesn't do its Forge effect, it still sacrifices those creatures. So, say for example, you wanted to get rid of this Dino Fiend to steal one from your opponent, you can just hit it with the Obsidian Forge, and it will allow you to steal one.
So, in terms of the game, we could get a very peculiar situation where they're both trying to set up unorthodox key cheats to essentially thwart the other person, right? So, Azawin's going to be trying to set up some sort of Untamed or Mars key cheat, and we could end up with a situation where Honorius is going to be sitting there waiting for them to forge their second key so they themselves can key cheat before Azawin does it.
Exactly, yes. So
Um,
I think because of that, I think it's even more likely that kind of Heart of the Forest is going to be played by Azorius, by Azawin, and he's going to be looking to get that kind of like double key turn just to stop Honorius being able to do
yeah.
anything to stop him.
And there are a couple of things I think might be able to stop him from Honorius. You've got a lot of capture and then some board clears in the Sanctum.
Mm.
So you can capture a lot of Ember, then kill off a bunch of your own creatures to essentially give it back to them, making them forge a second key earlier than they perhaps might want.
Yeah. You also have some ways of purging from the discard pile, which could become very important. So cards like Infernus, firstly to get rid of the Key Abduction and the Martian Generosity, that could be a big purge from Infernus. You also have Font of the Eye, not Font of the Eye, Eye of Judgment, a different eye. Got two eyes in this deck, which is fitting. But Eye of Judgment now to purge a creature from a discard pile, so you've got to think that the Eye of Judgment will be looking to purge his Chota Hazri if it gets the chance.
Yes. But I personally, I don't know about you, I would probably put my money on Azawin. I think there's too much. There's got too much going for it, both in terms of just sheer speed and the ability to set up some ridiculous Jenka Heart of the Forest Shoda Hazard nonsense.
I sadly would agree. As much as I'm kind of like, I think we're both rooting for Honorius in this sense because of our dislike. I think most people
I
will
mean,
root against anyone playing against a Heart of the Forest deck, but I think Heart of the Forest with key cheats in both the Untamed and in the Mars, you could get a real problem. You've also got no artifact control from Honorius, so you can't even you
no.
have to play the game on Azawin's terms, and against a Heart of the Forest deck, you really don't want to have to do that.
All right, let's see how it goes down.
Indeed. Hey everyone, welcome back to Screech Bomb Commentaries. We're now going to be coming into the game. We're coming into this game slight at the end at turn 4. We missed off the start a bit here. We want to talk about maybe where the board state is at the moment.
Yeah, so I think the dramatic thing so far is that we have, I think perhaps by the Eye of Judgment, a purged Chota
We
Hazri.
do indeed have a purge straight to Hasbury, which is big. It
Yeah,
really narrows the ability of Xiar to do that 2-turn forge we were talking about. Two
yeah,
forge turn rather.
they're going to really struggle to set that up. So only one of the available key cheats is there.
Hmm.
However, and we have also have the Infernus badge come down and purge some more things. But Jar is about to drop a very tasty Mars turn, in which they will archive something with the Proliferator and the Mars first, and presumably archive with the Key Abduction. So let's find out.
You got to presume, well, the key abduction or the Martian generosity, one of the two. But the thing
Is that a
there,
is that a generosity?
that is a I do believe that is a generosity. Oh, it might not be a generosity
I
actually. I think
don't. I don't think it is. I think we're looking at exterminate, exterminate.
you are right. We're looking at exterminate. Your eyes are clearly better than mine. Okay, but yeah, let's get started and see if we are correct. And the Infernus does purge. Maybe I'm perhaps purge the Mars first, but we'll see what it does. Here we go. So as you see, Flotsam Spike has just been played to destroy each creature not on a flank. And we'll wait to see what happens next. And yeah, we are getting a mouse over to see, yes, that Chota Hasbury was in fact purged. And when we look at the discard here, nothing too exciting in the discard pile there, really. And now we are seeing the key abduction played just for the Ember. And that proliferator is reaped and archiving the key abduction as expected.
That's huge in the game's opening turns, right? Because he's purged the Chota, which is bad for Xiar, but he's archived the key abduction very nicely.
He has.
That's just gonna sit there now.
It is. I don't think it's the end of the world, to be fair, because for Picmar, because I think he is still going to play that dis turn, play down his Infernet. What he might even do, actually, he might kill the Glixel Proliferator and then purge that and, for example, the Mars First or the Exterminate.
That could be pretty strong.
I think that's what I'd do in this circumstance because I think that's a big part of him being able to recur his like big key reduction Martial Generosity thing and just keep repeatedly doing that. It restricts him to one big turn rather than many subsequent big turns.
And Proliferate is one of those things that you don't want to let live, really.
There we go. We see the fight on the Proliferator there.
Yeah.
And he's playing the Infernus down. Let's see what he purges.
I think you'd be right here.
Well, we'll see. I've been wrong before, and I'll likely be wrong again. You could cut the tension with a spoon.
He's thinking. You also can look up and see in Jar's hand that the Brig combo is there.
It is. You can. I imagine what we're going to see is we're going to see the Dominate Bauble used to get a Reap with the Infomorph. So Flotsam Spiking Proliferator. That's a strong play, I think, actually. Yeah. It means you can build a board now safely. You're not going to worry about all your stuff being killed. You're taking an Ember off of Jar and you're getting rid of the Proliferator, which is a really big card. He also gets the Screaming Cave down. Screaming Cave allows you to discard your entire hand, which can often be useful if your hand's kind of full of stuff that you don't really want and you want to kind of get a bit of a fresh start next turn. Screaming Cave can really sort that out for you.
Yeah, and I think very good for adaptive because you are. It's skill testing, right? So you need to know your odds of getting a better hand with what's in your deck
Exactly.
compared to the hand you have, and that sort of thing comes with experience.
You need to know when to stick and when to twist. And in this case, Picmar is going to be hopefully showing us when exactly to do both of those things.
Yes, but we'll see if Jar picks it up.
Mm.
Bit early for the Brig, so I think perhaps a Mars turn from Jar now.
A Mars turn. I mean, you're going to get a couple of things stunned, and you're going to get yourself up to 6 Ember, but that's all you're really going to be able to do. It's not the best turn, but it's not the worst turn.
You don't want to Brig when they're on 3 Ember because it doesn't do anything. You
No.
want to try and save the full moon and the fog bank for a time when you're playing some creatures.
Standardized testing would only get the Anguish, and unfortunately, it would get the Ancient Humans. Probably don't do that either. I think you are right, and that is what Jar's doing, going for a Mars turn, getting a Reap, and he's going to stun the Anguish, and I imagine the Fiend would be.
I think so, because you don't want to have that run into something and get itself killed.
Exactly.
Although it will live fighting the Ancient Human, so.
Oh, stuns the Infernus. Interesting.
Okay.
I guess it's limiting Picmar's ability to fight there. and it means that you can't have the ancient human be killed
Yeah.
by the creatures on the board at the very least. I am, however, seeing there's a positron bolt in hand, which I imagine will be used to end the poor ancient human.
I like Agent Human. It's got an interesting effect, fun art.
Yeah, it does. I'd agree with that. He's played the QMEX here.
Didn't It's not going to take him off the key though.
Positron bolts the ancient human. There we go.
He had the option with the
Uh,
Commandeer.
he actually does because he's put the damage on the anguish
Oh, very good.
to increase the key cost by that. That means
I did not see that. That's very good.
he also captured one on the Infomorph. I imagine that must have been with a icon of some sort. I didn't quite see.
We are, yes. Yeah, we are looking at a mass mutation.
Oh, now we see the binate rupture. Ooh, that is big, actually.
Well, he was sat there on 6 Ember, so
he
he's
was
gonna...
standardized testings to get the anguish and the QMEX. And
so he not only is he going to take 6 of Picmar's Ember now, he doubled 6 of his own.
He did indeed. I think we're probably going to get a Sanctum turn here just to try and get some capture with the Commandeer and take some Ember off of Xiar and just really try and like limit the amount of Ember he has here.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know what you do here. You're looking at a situation where they could just forge several keys very quickly unless you can do something about it.
I think, like I said, you're going to have to, Commandeer, play your Sanctum out, and just try and capture, try and stall, try and slow them down. And you're going to fight the Presser Sutterkin with the Gizzleheart Zealot, I imagine, because I can get you some tasty draw.
And this is the thing. It's just like you hit the Brig combo. He started the turn with 6 Ember, and he finished the turn he was on, what, 16?
Yeah.
Just from sort of...
I mean, obviously,
you've
got to get the 2 pieces in your hand, and that's the thing. But in this case, he did, and that's a lot of Ember. Yeah. And you can't do much about it because you can't just go through the game never getting on check.
Yeah.
I guess the real damage that was done here with Xiar was the fact that he was on so much Ember himself as well. Like, if you're on 1 or 2 Ember when you brig, and you're getting 6 Ember from the other person, so you're getting roughly a key's worth, but it's not as big. But in this case, Xiar, not only did he get 6 Ember from Picmar, he got 5 Ember from himself. So from one card, he functionally got 11 Ember. Well, 12 if you count the pip on it. And that's big.
I have judgment to purge the Rustnoir. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. He's got a lot of artifacts that he wants to keep around. It also stops that Heart of the Forest play being as easy for Xiar to control. Yes.
So we get into a situation where Xiar's going to forge the second key. After this turn, you assume.
You would assume, yeah.
But Picmar's building up a pretty nice board.
Mm-hmm. That he is.
They're not really doing anything about. But there's the Martian Generosity.
That's a problem.
So there's a fair and reasonable chance that they forge this key.
Well, I think
play Martian Generosity for 7, and we're looking at game over.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, they've got the key production in the archives. I don't really know what you do in this situation. They're gonna go with Dis. I mean, I think you might be seeing the Screaming Cave here, just like hunting for anything that can help at the end of this term. But I don't really see Stirring. You can't even get anything out of the discard pile with Stirring Grave.
Also, I mean, they don't know that they're looking at
a
game-ending Martian Generosity. I mean, you've got to know that it's potentially there because you saw them archive the key abduction.
Yeah. And they've got 9 cards left in deck as well. I mean, at some point. They've also got I believe that's a destructive analysis in hand, so they could say kill the Gizzleheart Zealot, get an extra Ember off of that as well.
It's got a pip on it as well.
And has it got a pip on it?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean an Ember pip? Right, sorry. I thought you were talking about an enhancement. I was like, but it's AOA. They didn't have enhancements. But yeah. Yeah, but I mean, also, you get an Ember Pit from it. You also, in the terms of key abduction, though, playing a card doesn't really help you because even if it's got an Ember Pip on it, it counts as an Ember Pip because you're reducing the cost by each card in hand. Whereas this has like a net positive of Ember Pips because you could also destroy a thing with a Pip on to get that.
Yep, here
So
comes
here we go.
Mars.
Destructive analysis. I imagine killing the zealot. There we go. 8 ember, so it's going to be 16 cards. Yeah, this is game. He's now going to hit the key abduction, and Xiar's won the game.
And this is like an example of the sheer high roll power of this sort of triple combo.
Yeah.
Like they generated 2 keys from a huge brig, which there wasn't really anything Picmar could do about. And then there wasn't a huge amount they could do about that either.
Yeah, and you can't say that Xiar's played badly here either. They've purged like some key pieces. They've got rid of the
Yeah.
proliferator. They've got rid of the chota. You know, it's we've seen a lot of really useful things gone, and yet still, unfortunately, it wasn't enough to just the sheer power of those combos. And I think that's why a lot of people dislike those combos. Is that there's not much you can do against them. If they get going, all that will happen is you just see them wreck your day, as they did in the case of Picmar, sadly.
He saw the brig pretty early. It was like turn 4 when it came in.
Yeah.
I briefly saw my name playing a game when this was happening.
Mm. Did you win?
I don't know, but I just spotted myself on the screen as they're scrolling through.
Probably not. Then.
Probably not. The odds of me winning are not great.
Slim.
Slim. Jupiter searching for the game.
Yeah. I see your game. No one's joined it yet.
Nope. No takers so far.
Nope. I mean, I can understand why. Having played you before, I wouldn't give them the choice.
I'm not going to ask any further questions. I don't want to know the answers to them.
Yeah. No, I very much enjoy playing with Callum. We are regular sparring partners in both our coat games under the Team Screech Bomb, but also just sometimes when we want to play Keyforge for the fun of the game.
We are frequently joined by our lovely third member of Team Screech Bomb, who is our technical support for this thing.
Or technical support, as we call him. Matthew Tuck.
I don't know whether he likes that or not, but
he hasn't said he doesn't like it, so we're going to keep doing it until he tells us to stop.
It is quite funny. Still having problems finding this game.
Really are, yeah.
Whether one of them is just slow and make it. Could have done a thing that happens where both of them assumes the other person is going to make it. Which
and you're just going to sit there, waiting, watching, thinking about how your life came to this.
Yeah, and here's the thing about even if you don't necessarily get the draws right off the bat, you've got enough speed with the logos.
I mean, 16 Ember Pips is what you got to think about. And that's enough to nearly forge 3 keys. And if you didn't get a single creature down to reap a single time, if you just play through your deck, you're going to get almost enough Ember to forge. And you've got stuff like Infernus that's going to knock you off. You've got Steel Effects, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
you can play through pretty quickly because you've got the double Titan Librarians to archive cards then return. You've got double pokes. You've got a Witch of the Wilds to stop dropping on tame turn and tame cards out of house.
But we now have the reverse fixture here. And I think this is going to be the interesting one because I think both of these decks are difficult to play. Both of these decks are not standard Keyforge decks. You're not going to be doing standard things. It's not the usual kind of if in doubt reap kind of thing. It's not the kind of thing where you can just like, right, okay, this is going to be a bit fighty. I want to control the board. It isn't like, oh, I want to let them have a big turn and steal a bunch. These are both decks that there's a lot of kind of like picking your moment with these decks. And you've got to question whether these players are going to do it. Now, interesting, we've seen the Heart of the Forest in the opening hand for Picmar after the mulligan. I think it's going to be very interesting whether they choose to play this or not.
And also the Strange Gizmo.
Yes. Both of these are cards that could kind of make or break your game depending on what strategy you're choosing. Xiar's hand, I'd say not great. I'd be surprised if he didn't mulligan this.
Well, it's a 2/2/2, which is not what we're looking for. But you've got a Redacted, a Dominator Bauble, and a Screaming Cave. And I think the Screaming Cave and the Redacted are things you want to get out early.
And I guess when you're expecting this game to be a bit slower and go a bit longer, you maybe do want to get those out. So you're kind of like racking them up. But I'd personally mulligan this. But another Redacted. It's a 2/2/1 hand here, but you've still got the Strange Gizmo comes out now. This is going to be an interesting choice for Xiar, is whether you play the Redacted. Well, yeah, I think he's going to play the Redacted, but it's whether he now get that Redacted up to 4 before the Strange Gizmo goes off.
seems unlikely with the amount of quick Ember generation you could potentially get from Azawin with the many pips.
Yes, and the key cheats as well. So it's not even like you can just keep knocking him off check. I guess maybe he might be just kind of looking to play other things and hoping the Strange Gizmo goes off first, and then he can play the Redacted after the Strange Gizmo's gone off if Picmar gets an early quick key.
Big question here is, does Picmar play the Heart of the Forest?
Is he a man of honor? We'll see. He's played the Fog Bank. No fighting from Xiar. He doesn't play the Heart of the Forest, but he doesn't discard it either. Now
So
that is interesting.
Clearly does want it.
I guess not wanting to get it purged by, say, an Infernus, but that's chaining yourself there. I don't know. It's a difficult one.
And the thing is with this sort of deck is that you might necessarily mind that just because you can wait. You've got the time.
You've got the Witch of the Wilds as well, which I believe does it like to play untamed creatures during non-untamed turns, or is it the other way around?
I don't have one. Let me check. During which untamed is not your active house, you may play one untamed card.
I see. So that's the kind of thing that would be useful. Say on a Mars turn, you could play a Trota Hazri as well as a Key Abduction if you were feeling super nasty.
Oof. I mean, a rare occurrence, but that would be disgusting to see.
That would be, as the kids say, poggers, I believe.
Oh dear. I'm too old to understand why the kids say poggers.
It's just a fun word to say, Callum. It's a fun word to say.
I'm drinking Tomacio Bio Organic Cola. This is how old I am as a human being.
I don't think that makes you old. That just makes you a hipster.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. You know, it's a product of Sicily.
I feel like if anything, old people would disparage you for your choice of fancy cola and be like, damn kids with their avocado toast and their tomato colas.
I'll level with you. Sometimes you have to make delivery limits on food. And I occasionally use this as a chance to try new soft drinks.
It's very fair. I would normally just buy more food and then keep it in the fridge for the next day is my usual strategy. I'm a sucker for a next day takeaway. And the Heart of the Forest comes down. Okay. That is... He plays a full moon and a Trota Hazri, so not gaining anything, not losing anything because he's played the full moon. Maybe just wants to get a creature down the board. Ooh, now that's a big Mars hand, but not really... Ooh, what you could do with that Mars hand, though, is if the Trota Hazri lives, if you can get the Vizima Think Throne down, you could Mars first and archive the Trota Hazri, which could be very helpful.
Could be very good
to have knocking around.
We'll see if Xiar takes it off the board. I'd probably put the Witch of the Wilds as a higher target. I don't think you immediately see that Vizima Think Drone play coming.
No, you don't. Well, it is Xiar's deck though. He knows what it does. Maybe I mean, I suppose it's not the kind. He doesn't know that's in his hands. He knows he's not played any Mars, but he's still got a lot of the deck left. I don't think you can assume that's going to happen. He's going to play Sanctum, though. So, cuts the Commandeer down. He's going to get an Eye of Judgment. And Gizelheart Zealot. What is he going to fight?
He might want to go for the Chota.
He goes to the Witch of the Wilds. That's a fair play.
Yeah, I'd have done that, I think.
Yeah.
It's additional efficiency that you just don't want your opponent to have.
Precisely.
Falls under the common aphorism of burn the witch.
Burn the witch. It does. So actually, I think you've actually got two interesting options for what you might want to do on this Mars turn. Because you can either archive the Trota Hazri, as we discussed, or you can use the Vizima Think Drone to archive the Tantadlin as a card you maybe don't particularly care about or need, and then use Destructive Analysis to purge it and kill the, I believe that's a Dino Thief?
I think we're missing the bigger brain play, which is you archive the Heart of the Forest.
Ah, that is indeed
you take it off the board, so it won't get killed by the Strange Gizmo, and you have it in your archives if you need it.
I think that's probably correct. I was too creature focused, and I apologize for that.
You get very few effects that take artifacts off the board, and
you do
very few effects that archive them.
Mm-hmm.
Go for the Chota. which I think is fine.
These are all like fine options. I think like you could make an argument for any of them really. Um, and it's that exterminate in hand as well. What's
Yes, it is.
exterminate do? I'm not a big Mars player. I don't know what a lot of their
It
cards
doesn't
do.
come. You don't see it often. It's for every friendly Mars creature you control, destroy a non-Mars creature with lower power.
I see. Okay, so with the two dominators he has in deck, I suppose that's actually could be very good. You could only have two 9 power Mars creatures on the board.
Yeah, it's a tricky one to pull off because obviously a lot of Mars creatures are like 2 and 3, so there aren't many, and it's not even equal to or lower. It's lower than. So
So a risky play here where he's playing the key abduction just for the Ember. When we haven't seen an Infernus come down. Now, Xiar doesn't have an Infernus in hand, but that if he did, that could have been a very sad situation for Picmar, getting one of his most useful cards. But oh, that's sad here. We are seeing the interdimensional graft, but we are not seeing the binate rupture. So we're not going to see revenge for Picmar to do the same thing that Xiar did to him. Back to Xiar here.
this is interesting so far. I think he really missed a trick not archiving the Heart of the Forest.
I mean, I don't think you need to do it now. I guess it's more the thing. I don't really.
We'll see if he gets a second opportunity, I suppose.
And he's still going to be able to forge his first key, and it seems likely that maybe he just is a man of honor and doesn't want to play with Heart of the Forest. He just wants to play it for the Ember. Now he's happy for it to go away, never to be seen again.
I don't think it's dishonorable to use Heart of the Forest in an adaptive matchup where your opponent has brought the deck. I think that's fine.
I don't know, Callum.
I don't know. I don't want to be too anti Heart of the Forest on stream.
I am happy to be very anti-art. Now, he's got the Master Generosity in hand with 6 Ember.
And key cost of 7.
Yeah.
So this is going to be real big.
Yeah, that's 12 cards. That's 14 cards, actually. He's going to draw. That's almost the entirety of the remainder of his deck.
15, as I assume he reaps first. Nope, that's not how that works. 16.
Yep, 16, yeah. That seems likely.
So I think now maybe you can take the Heart of the Forest off the board.
You could, yeah. I think now would probably be the good time to do it. Have the Chota Hansry and the Heart of the Forest in hand. In archive, rather.
And I don't think we've seen a.
Please.
Don't think we've seen a proliferator.
Actually, no. What you do is you fight the Think Drone into the Dino Thief to get that 3 Ember back. Then you Martian Generosity.
I don't know.
For 18.
The problem is you won't. I can't see what dis mutant creature that is, but it will steal one, so you won't have any more Ember if you fight it.
Oh, very true.
It's gone Logos is rejecting the huge Mars turn.
I mean,
just I think because having no other Mars.
Yeah.
So wants to
capitalize.
I mean, you can archive it with the Titan Librarian at the end of the turn.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's a big call to turn down a Martian Generosity for 16 cards, even though you don't have the key abduction.
It is.
We haven't seen a proliferator, and we haven't seen a Mars first, right?
We've not.
You're almost certain to get that combo to potentially archive the Generosity and do it again.
Oh, we have seen a Mars first. He used it on the Think Drone to archive the Chota.
There's 2 of them.
There's 2.
Yeah, the ridiculousness never stops with this deck.
So now we see the Proliferator as well. We see the Flotsam Spike too. And he's archived, as expected, the Master Generosity. So we see the Infernus is in the hand of Xiar. A disc turn seems likely.
Yeah, he's going to purge, I assume, the key abduction.
One would assume. Yeah, so knock off a couple of Ember. He is indeed playing Dis. And probably get a Reap in. He doesn't see the Binate Rupture, unfortunately. So got Pain Reaction. Interesting, he didn't play that on the Professor Sutterkin. I would have, or on the Archimedes, for that matter. That's what I would have expected that on.
Yeah, because that lives.
Yeah,
I think perhaps missing the conditional nature of
so key abduction and
chain
Mars
reaction.
first is purged by
Yeah,
the Infernus.
seems very correct.
And yeah, I guess we're going to see a Reap by the Dino Fiend. And also Screaming Cave comes down.
I guess he fights the Sutterkin off the board, perhaps.
That does kill the Dino Fiend, though, and puts Picmar on check, so you'd assume he doesn't want to do that.
Well, the key cost is 7 because the Titan Engineer, and if the Dino Fiend dies, it'll steal one, so it'd be...
Captured an Ember due to Screaming Caves. Screaming Cave has a capture icon. He's captured one on the Titan. So maybe he does, in fact, kill the Sutterkin then with a fight, because then Picmar wouldn't be on check.
I wouldn't want to let the Sutterkin live. No,
he does.
Leaves it.
There's not actually that many Logos cards in the deck, though, to be honest. There's only 4 Logos creatures in the deck. You're not going to be getting actually that much out of it. I can see.
Oh, that's true. And you're looking at 3 of them on the board.
Exactly.
I suppose that's the value of knowing the deck. You know, having played it a bunch, that Sutterkin never really goes off for that much.
Yeah. The only thing is, though, you've not... I suppose, yeah, you need, even with Binate Rupture, you need to play the Binate Rupture as an alpha. So you can't... I'm not going to see that out of...
into it. It's an interesting back and forth so far at the moment, because the Strange Gizmo, obviously, if Picmar and Forge will go off and wipe the ward, which has a number of different steal effects, a number of archiving things with the Archimedes. It will take out all of Xiar's artifacts.
It will. Do you go for the Mars here?
So Logos.
He's gone Logos again.
I think now you know that...
Discards the standardized testing.
Well, it would take out Tantadlin and Archimedes and Sutterkin.
Doesn't get any Logos cards off the Sutterkin. That's unlucky.
That's rough. So I think he's archiving. He's not playing the Martial Generosity. He's going to be wanting to set up a turn where you Generosity, draw huge amounts of creatures to the point where you can go for some sort of massive Chota turn. Although we have seen the full moon already, so we try to draw back into that.
Yeah. He's also now got the regrowth for the Chota Hazri as well.
That's the Chota's archived.
He is archived, of course. You're correct.
Thanks to the Think drone. So he's just gonna reap out here.
He is.
Put himself to check. Archive something.
Yeah. I got to assume the interdimensional graft. Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
This game's interesting. It's very much on a knife edge here. And he's gonna get a big. He's gonna get a big Mass Generosity turn off. That's a given.
At some point, yes.
But without the key abduction, how much can you actually do with it?
Well, that's the thing. You can get a huge Mars board. You can draw your combo pieces, so you brig, and then try and set up a big untamed full moon turn. I think that's what you try and do in the absence of the key abduction.
Is Picmar going to forge here? Because I don't think Xiar's any way of stopping him.
I don't think so, unless there's a capture icon that I'm not seeing.
Unless he can reap with the Logos Mutant to discard a card and draw a card. I don't know if there's anything in Logos, though, that could help him. It seems like Picmar is going to forge here, whether Xiar likes it or not. He's also going to get 4 Ember back after forging, and then maybe we'll be looking to do that big Martial Generosity turn. He could be almost drawing his entire deck into his hand at that point, with the Archimedes archiving, unless it's... I guess he is reaping with the Sacrobot.
So there are some available capture pips in Logos that might save him.
Are there? Okay.
There's one of the
discards Font of the Eye, draws a disc creature, Maleficorn.
Also, one of the capture pips is on the Redacted, which is already out. So
he's still got the QMX to draw another card.
He does.
deal a damage to something. Oh no, he used Dominator Bauble to play Sacrobot. Excuse me.
Ah, okay.
But hasn't drawn anything in Dis to help him either. So I think he's just going for some reaps here.
Unless he has a way to put damage on that Anguish, but I don't think he does.
Hmm. I would agree.
It's been a fascinating back and forth so far.
Yeah.
I've got to say. And this is, I think, why both of these decks are good choices for adaptive.
Time Librarian goes to the archives. It's
Yep.
Stir Engrave to archive the Infernus. Unsurprising.
Sensible. They both have relatively unusual ways of playing. They both have a lot of specific choices that you are going to be faced with as you play your way through the game.
Yes.
That, if you get wrong, I think could cost you the game.
They really could.
Like the slight inefficiencies here and there.
So yeah, it looks like we're going to see Picmar Forge here, which means everything on the board is going to be deceased. So it's whether Xiar wants to play these creatures when they're just going to die, whether he wants to discard them, or whether he even just wants to go for the Screaming Cave, get rid of everything in hand, and get a new hand. I'm not really actually seeing anything that's going to be that useful next turn. He is Screaming Caving, yeah. I think that's very reasonable, actually. What's he got here? So he's got... Oh, Master of the Theory could be very good here. You've got to assume Picmar's going to play quite a few creatures, so you could see a lot of archiving from Xiar potentially using that. But yes, as you see, Picmar forges his key, and you've got to expect the big Martian Generosity turn here.
So
it seems like if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it?
So he can get a pip off the Flotsam Spike. He can get a pip off the Martian Generosity.
So that's
draw
12
cards.
Yeah.
I think you're going to hit a Mars first, which you can use with the Proliferator.
Yeah. And when you know he's got an Infernus in his archive, that's particularly important. Because you really don't want him to be able to get your Martian Generosity off the Infernus.
And it speaks to the power of Infernus as a card that he's having to play around it this much. It is particular death to certain types of combo decks. Just the ability to pick out key pieces.
Yeah.
He's thinking about it.
There's not enough Untamed to get a Hazard Forge off, I'm pretty sure.
I don't think so, because he'd need two more Ember besides the one on Regrowth.
Exactly.
And I don't think he has the Full Moon. I think it's in the discard.
No. That maybe something to try next turn.
And he's gone Untamed anyway.
He's gone Untamed. Interesting. That is unexpected.
It's especially interesting as he's going to have to stun the Ink of the Spider itself. He's going to regrowth the Witch of the Wilds, perhaps. Yeah.
There we go.
Just drop that.
Rustnora coming down. And that was it.
Ooh. So, he is potentially looking at the Martian Generosity, then Shoda turn with the Witch of the Wilds.
I think what is more important, though, is he's got the Graft in his archive, and he now has the Binate Rupture in his hand.
So he could Binate Rupture, Chota, Graft.
Yes, he could.
Oh, that's a spicy one. And this is like combos that we didn't even see playing. Looking at this deck at the beginning, that are now like coming out.
It's unclear whether he'll actually do that though, because Xiar currently has only got 3 Ember, so doing the Binate Rupture right now isn't actually ideal.
We'll see how much he has at the end of the turn.
So Xiar's going to go for Logos. Going to play Master of the Theory, archive 3 cards. Going to assume it's everything apart from the Logos card, which is Skippy Time Hog, one of the most delightfully named cards in Keyforge. He does.
Not that big a deal in Coda when it was originally published, but now I think is much more powerful.
Indeed, yeah, I would agree with that.
The game has become much more board-centric, and it's a mutant, so you can get those benefits. I'm very curious to see what Picmar does here. I think he's got a lot of good options. I think I would go for the Binate Rupture Chota turn, because you'll give yourself 5 Ember, you'll get 2 off Xiar, and you Chota, which will leave yourself leave you set up for a decent Martian Generosity turn.
You could have, yeah.
And you can pick up your archives and drop quite a few Logos creatures as well.
Yeah, that's true.
I might just be saying that because it is a particularly appealing play aesthetically. It's cool. It's like sweet move. It's a sweet move. Whether it's optimal, I don't know.
I mean, I think you've also got to look though at the potential like 14 cards you're going to draw with Mars, and say, well, I could do that, or I could just do that next turn with.
Yeah, when he's probably got more Ember.
Yeah, the only risk is that the Witch of the Wilds is dead, but Xiar's got nothing on the board that can kill the Witch of the Wilds, and there's not that much removing the set. I mean, we can see he's got a Positron Bolt, so he could definitely kill the Witch of the Wilds, but
it's also always an interesting dilemma with sort of mid-game Martian Generosity. That yes, you get to draw a lot of cards, but you cost yourself what would in this case be a full key's worth of Ember.
Yeah.
And if your opponent is looking to push for key 2, and you're spending 6 or 7 Ember that you would use to get your second key on the Martian Generosity, then it can be a bit of a come from behind. And we know that Azawin does not have the Ember control to play catch up at all. That it's reliant on Heart of the Forest to do so. But he's gone Mars, so I think we'll see
Martian
the
generosity is going to come down. Yeah, so pick up.
And I guess he's hoping. I guess he's hoping to redraw the Heart of the Forest.
I don't know, why would he need the Heart of the Forest at this point?
Well, he just might end up needing it, right? Because he's going to lose all of his Ember to this Martian Generosity.
Yeah, I imagine he's going to be able to play a bunch of Mars cards and get it back. Yeah. Is the thing.
Drops the Persistence Hunting from the Witch of the Wilds for an extra Ember. Although he didn't pick up his archives, so will not Generosity.
Oh, interesting. It's maybe just going for a Gentleman's Forge.
Forging in a normal conventional.
I guess the way he's got to look at it is that, okay, if you knock me off check somehow, then I can do you can just do the same thing that Xiar did in the previous game and just do a massive Binate Rupture graft play that Xiar probably can't come back from.
Possibly, yes.
Also, I think a small mistake here from Picmar in that he did not leave the Proliferator on the flank.
Yes, and that's a practice thing, because there are not many creatures that require that sort of flank placement.
It was really like a mechanic that like people cared about a lot about in Coton, to a lesser extent AoA, and now like flanks don't seem to matter at all. Really?
Not hugely, no. I don't miss Haderoth's Wall. Let's put it that way.
I'm always sad I never got a Haderoth's Wall deck, and it's exactly the kind of deck that I really enjoy, is just making creatures more powerful and doing more biffs. And I never got a Haderoth's Wall deck, sadly.
For the uninitiated, biffs are what my dear companion refers to as fighting.
Gotta love those biffs. Gotta love those biffs.
As discussed in a previous episode, I really don't. I like my tiny little creatures that do fun things.
I like my big creatures that stop his tiny little creatures doing fun things.
And this is why it beats me.
Mostly by killing them is my usual strategy.
So he's going to hit the Spirit's Way here, which will wipe most of this board off.
Everything apart from the human and the spider.
And
he's playing General Zalvador before he's played the Spirit's Way, which seems an odd choice. If you're going to play a Spirit's Way, he does. It seems strange. Seems like you'd play that after, but Picmar is still going to forge here though. So now you've got to assume we're going to see the Logos and the Binate Rupture here.
Yes, that's like a slip up from Xiar, because he could have stopped him forging by capturing.
And I assume that was the intention, and he just misplayed playing the Zalvador first.
Yeah, so now we get the Brig, I assume.
You've got to assume so, yeah.
Because he'll
unless he goes Mars and goes for like a smaller Martian Generosity, you can still get 3 Ember from the Mars first and the human.
I think you try and lock it up at this point, because you hit the Binate Rupture.
But do you want to let Xiar forge a key?
I mean, you can't really stop him so much.
You can by him not forging a key, because you're not going to forge a key this turn.
No, either way, he's going Logos, so I think.
I think yeah,
It's
he is going to do that. I guess
Pick.
poking the Skippy Time Hog. He does play
Yeah.
the Brig combo.
So he's going to be on check at the end of this. Well,
Oh yeah,
after Xiar forges.
check by Miles. Yeah, pokes the Time Hog. I imagine we're going to see a discard of the standardized testing, unless he really hates Inca the Spider and Agent Human.
And he's going to pop something in the archives with the Titan Librarian, probably the Choda, if not, or the Generosity, perhaps.
I think I would have gone I'd go the Chota, to be honest, because you're less likely to be playing an Untamed turn next.
Yeah, I assume so. Yeah, Choda it was.
There we go. And
So,
4 Ember. This is my reason. He's not gotten that much Ember off that move. And he's given Xiar a key that he wouldn't normally have forged, and that could really come back to bite him.
it could. So I think there's certainly a risk to it.
And I say I don't see what was stopping him doing the same next turn when Xiar was presumably going to have more Ember, and he's going to get more Ember from it. And
Yeah,
Picmar would have had some Ember as well.
He's only on 7. He's going to get taken off check by the Infernus.
Like I say, I think I would have gone for the smaller Mars Generosity, drawn 8 cards off it, get some Mars down, and just I've been happy with that personally.
Perhaps that is a.
He also
between,
would have flipped his deck as well, which when you know an Infernus is still knocking around would have been quite important. And what has happened here is the Infernus has purged him and knocked him off check. Picmar's still in a strong position, don't get me wrong, and can even now do the Martian Generosity that we're speaking about for Ember Plenty, but I would have done that turn the other way around.
Questions is and again there's with the key abduction purge, this is a risk. You are getting rid of all of your Ember against an opponent. Playing a deck which has essentially no Ember control now that he's on his 3rd key.
You are, but you've got to think you're going to draw so many cards. I mean, he's going to with the 2nd Reap, he's going to be on 9 Ember, so he's going to draw literally every card, almost every card he owns bar 3 with this.
So you've got to assume that you draw enough Untamed to set up the Choda, or hope you do.
Well, he's got the Nature's Call in there as well, so I think you almost certainly do.
Yeah, so it's like Full Moon Nature's Call Choda will probably get you there, given he's now going to draw basically all of his remaining cards that aren't purged or on the board.
Yeah, although you've got to assume that, say, the Anguish will... Oh, no, the Anguish is stunned, so it can't even fight.
Yeah, well, it discarded it. Did not want to take that risk.
Interesting.
I see it. Like, you don't necessarily want to throw away...
No, he didn't he just redrew it immediately.
Yeah, which is a hell of a stroke of fortune.
Yeah, that is. That'll do.
Oh no, he held it. He held it and then...
No, he discarded it. He discarded Martian Generosity. You can see it in the chat log. We just redrew it.
Damn! That's a hell of a stroke.
It's a lucky duck right there.
But yeah, I mean, I see it, right? You don't want to give away that much Ember this late in the game without the key abduction.
I just think you're certain to be able to draw enough Untamed cards to be able to get the...
Not certain, though. Very likely, but not certain.
I mean, how many Untamed creatures are there in his deck? You've got the deck list, Callum.
5, including the Chota.
And he's got Nature's Call. That's not been purged.
Inca's on the board.
I just think you...
I don't know whether it's a guarantee without doing the maths, and he's not played this deck much either, so he's...
I think it would... If he's got 5... Even if he had 0 Ember, if he's got 5 Untamed creatures, 1 on the board, is that 5 including the Chota as well?
That's 5 including the Chota.
Okay, maybe that does complicate things.
He thought about it for a while, right?
Yeah, you've got to assume then he's done the maths.
He made that decision. The problem he's got is that damage is racking up on Anguish.
It is,
Uh,
but
is now in a position to uh,
now he's gonna he's
save the
gonna
pack.
he's gonna Nature's Call the Anguish and show it House Reach for the win.
Yeah,
Or save the
or save
pack,
the
as the
pack.
case may be. Save the pack, coming in hot. A phrase you very rarely hear. Save the
So
pack
I think
is bad.
a more conservative play from Picmar, I think, but he thought about it and he calculated and he went for this and it worked out for him.
Yeah, I think it's also easy for us commentating to kind of want to see the bigger, the flashier
Oh, sure, yeah.
plays. You know, we want to see like that. There's fireworks, but I think it was probably the sensible play from Picmar was to do that. I think what we always say here is that we will never call a person's play wrong. We may occasionally say a different order how it could have been beneficial, but there is
Yeah.
almost always a reason for someone to make a play like that. Picmar clearly had reasons here, and those reasons were clearly very good reasons. The fact that
Yeah,
he won.
he went out, so it's hard for us to criticize him that much.
No.
As a win, as predicted, takes games 1 and 2. Less overwhelmingly that time,
Mm,
never actually played the Martian Generosity.
did not. I suppose the
Um,
threat hanging over though.
yeah, uh, played a moderate brig, but mostly that was sort of the heavy pips going through the deck,
Mm,
doing enough of a job.
yeah. So we're now going to see the third game, in which we're going to see bidding for who gets to play with as a win. And do you think chains are going to really affect this deck a lot, Callum?
I don't know. I think you've got two things to consider. One of them is that you're looking for combo pieces, right? There are certain cards you want to have in hand to make the deck do the things it does. So that's a big consideration.
Mm-hmm.
But it has some things to help you get away from the chains. You've got 2 time librarians to maybe archive. You've got two pokes to draw conditionally. The Witch of the Wilds will help you, and potentially an early Martian Generosity to just draw a lot.
There's also a fair few one power creatures that you can poke quite easily. I think the thing to consider here is you've also got Heart of the Forest, which
Yeah.
is a handbrake. As fast as your opponent's deck can go, if you put the Heart of the Forest down, doesn't matter.
Nope.
They can't get past you, and also if you get it early enough, they can't generate a lot of Ember because they know you've got Brig, and you can just be like, okay, you're gonna make a bunch of Ember. I'll have that back, please.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I think we're gonna see Jar bidding quite a few chains on this as the person who knows the deck better, and I think he'll be happy to go quite high.
How high would you go?
It's difficult because this is not the kind of deck that I would play. This is not the and similarly, Pigmar's deck is also not the kind of deck that I would play. So this is a situation I would be unlikely to find myself in. Um, but I think you could go higher. I think you could go into like I think that like 10 would probably be my absolute max. I would think. I wouldn't want to go much higher than that. I yeah, I'd be happy giving to the other person at 12. I think you definitely don't go over 12. You definitely go and go to like the third line of chains. But I think the second line is going to land somewhere in there. What would you say, Callum?
I think I bulk at 6 or 7.
You do.
I think 10 is a bit high for me.
Okay. I'll bow to your better judgment here because you definitely play these kind of decks a lot more than I do. This is a lot more your wheelhouse than mine.
Well, I don't have good redacted decks, and I don't have a Heart of the Forest deck.
You
So
don't, but I think the thing with these decks is they're a lot more about like waiting for that perfect time to like hit that combo
yeah, I
and
am more of a
do that
combo player
big
than you.
turn. And I don't really have experience of like having a deck and needing like all the pieces together to hit that big turn. So I think that's probably why I in my head feel like I would be more comfortable with higher chains when actually that might not be the correct number of chains to take.
Uh,
So yeah, I think we're waiting on the third game to be started, and we can see. I hope we'll get to see the chain bidding process because I think it will be interesting to see where people go with the chain bidding. I think
Uh,
Picmar in the past has said he's a fan of the big opening bid. There's a lot of theory chains whether you start low and kind of like let it incrementally go up, or you just like say slap like a 5 or a 6 straight out the gate, and see how your opponent responds.
yeah, I've been more of a fan of the jump bids recently.
Hmm.
If you know you'd be happy playing it with 6, just go to 6.
Well,
Make your opponent make that choice to go higher and take you into the second
I
band.
think 6 is like if you're going to do like the big opening bid play, 6 is what you have to go to, because then you're saying to that person, you have to be willing to have an opening hand of potentially 4 cards and then further potentially 3 cards, which it's not good. That limits you a lot in the early game.
Yeah, and we'll see if that comes through in the match in question.
We will.
Not quite sure what the delay is.
No, I think it's been an interesting game thus far. Like I say, for me, I think this is particularly interesting. These are not, as I said, they're not the kind of decks that I would play. They're also not the kind of games that I tend to see because I tend to watch games that I'm playing in. So it's been a really interesting back and forth for me to see, for want of a better word, like the maneuvering and the kind of like waiting for that like perfect moment. And I think that's why a lot of times I've been saying the wrong moment with my perfect moment, quite a few times.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, that's why they've taken this for adaptive. These choices are difficult.
Mm.
There's not always an obvious play. There are several different competing options that ultimately we disagree on. And remember, Picmar used the Vizima Think Drone to archive Choda Hazri way towards the beginning of the game. And that's what then locked down the win at the end.
Mm. Well, I think with a deck like Xiar was playing and Picmar has brought with I believe it has 2 Infernuses. You kind of have to.
No, it's just the one
just the
Infernus.
one. It's got Stirring Grave. That's what I'm thinking of. So a way of
Yes, that was
recurring
what
the
he.
Infernus. We almost got to have those cards in your archive because you can't just leave them in your discard, especially if you've had to like discard or play them early game, because there's every chance that they're just going to on a whim go, oh, I'll take a dis turn, and just purge them. And that's what we kind
And
of
this is
saw Picmar doing early on, which is trying to like purge Jar's big combo pieces with his Infernus early on, and it
yeah.
nearly worked.
And here's the thing. That's an extra problem when you're looking at high chains.
Mm.
If you're down, if you've bid 8, 9, 10 chains, so you're down, you start with a hand size of 4. Holding a card is crushingly painful.
Yeah,
So it becomes extra hard to do the sort of plays where you avoid the Infernus.
yeah, because you just have to get rid of it and hope that you're not going to be punished. And that's the thing with Pigmar's deck. He's got that and the Eye of Judgment, so he's got also a way of just like you might just choose to do a Sanctum turn and just get rid of a creature. Which when you're looking to do, say, for example, Full Moon, Chota has replays. When you could potentially have your Proliferator in there and not have a way to get it out, you could just lose those creature pieces really easily too.
Yeah, and Eye of Judgment is not a card you see very often. It's a Sanctum rare and an AOA Sanctum rare.
Mm.
I think it's also in Mass Mutation now, so it's starting to become a little bit more
It is
fashionable.
indeed, yeah.
So not a house combination you see that often. AOA Sanctum, you like it a bunch.
I do.
It is less common in terms of overall competitive decks.
Yeah. No, one of my best decks.
Okay, the bidding is now beginning, so we do get to see this.
Okay, here we go. So starting at 0 chains by Jar. Now what will Picmar put as his first bid? I will resist the temptation to do an auctioneer impression.
I was just about to do.
Pigmar goes
like
with
that.
the 6 chains, the big opening bid that we were talking about. I think we expected this. This wasn't unexpected.
I like that. I think you know that the deck is better. I think considerably, or at least has the matchup.
Jar goes to 7. Pigmar bids 12.
Ooh, that is very confident, and 12 it is.
Yeah, that is okay. That's interesting. I mean, that's the very upper limit that I was saying, but to go straight in with that bid,
just clearly wants the deck. I think
Yeah,
believes that it will always win,
that's.
or at least will win most of the time. So
I
he's going to be
guess
looking at.
with the Heart of the Forest, you've got the handbrake. You've got the way to just slow it down if you can draw into that, and
But then
let
you've got
it
to.
give you a chance to catch up.
But then you've got to draw into it, right?
You do, you do.
Which could be trickier
But
when you're
I
looking at.
guess Picmar knows his deck and knows it isn't the fastest deck. It's got some speed to it. Maybe knows that it doesn't tend to win games kind of turn like 7, 8, 9, and you probably are going to
Yeah,
get a chance to draw into it.
it's probably used to winning decks with the double redacted,
Which
which is
yeah,
much
you have to take at
slower.
least 4 logos turns to do that, which is going to, in most
Slower.
cases, take a while.
12 is big. I haven't seen a bid of 12 chains in a while.
No, it's
Not that I play
especially
that much
not to
adapted.
even like ramp up to it, just to go straight 6, 7, 12.
Yeah, like he clearly had thought about that in advance and decided that he would go to 12.
I guess it's the kind of thing of he doesn't want his opponent going to 12, I suppose, and making either letting him have it for 12 or making Picmar play with 13.
Yeah, because for those of you who don't know, the chain tracker increases, it decreases the size of your hand as you get on higher chains, right? So 12 chains, you start with 2 cards fewer than you would normal. Once you go up to 13, you start with 3 cards fewer than normal.
So if you're playing second, you start with a hand of 3 cards, and then if you mulligan, you only have 2 cards. Also, the way you lose chains is each time you would draw normally with a hand of 6 or 6 cards, you lose a chain. So say if you have 6 cards in hand at the end of turn, you don't lose a chain. But if you have a hand of 5 cards and you have say 3 chains, you would still lose a chain even though you don't draw because you would have drawn without having those chains.
So there's both a real, I think, and a psychological barrier at 7 chains and 13 chains. Because you sort of move a step up in terms of the effects of chains. And that's why Picmar went to 6 and then went to 12 to make his opponent make that choice.
Yeah.
Each time.
The gates are important, I would say, definitely. You've got to. But yeah, we're taking some time to get into this game here. I'm just gonna. Yep, the video is still running. Don't quite know what's going on, but.
Well, they presumably will have reset. I think so. The person who they want to go first goes first.
Ah, that makes sense. Okay.
Which takes a little bit of
finagling.
Back and forth on TCO. Finagling. Oh, that's a good word.
Thank you.
A big fan of that word.
Word of the day. Finagling.
Yes, you have won this week's word of the week with finagling. Previous winners include Cognizant from our first commentary episode and Gumption from a previous game.
Both excellent words.
Both of them from myself, so we're mixing it up a bit.
Yeah. Now Callum is mocking me for using fun words.
I'm not mocking. I say finagling all the time. It is very useful in expressing what I'm usually up to. Which is some form of shenanigans.
But here we go. The game is up. Password is being put in. And we're going to see.
Do they have the right first player this time?
We're going to hope they do. I'm ready to begin. So yeah, we're going to see manual mode being switched on. Chains being added. Oh, no. We do not have the right.
Oh. Alright, third time lucky.
Here we go.
This time. I believe it's going to happen.
12 chains, though. That's a lot. I mean, it's going to be 12 turns before he draws a hand of 6 cards.
I'm very curious to see how this goes down, but just because of the chains. I don't think I've ever played a game with that many chains.
I can't say I have either. I think I've maybe gone to 10 once.
At some point you will have, because you do have a deck that you've got to 14 chains in normal chain bound.
That's true. I did, but the thing was I was on 10 chains and then went 4-0 with it. So the maximum I ever actually played it with was 10 chains.
Interesting.
Yes, that was Water Alien Andraz Infiltrator, one of my favourite decks. I think the fourth deck I ever bought. Brought me a lot of competitive success. It's a good friend. Once drew
Spain.
26 cards against Callum. Still hasn't got over that.
Turn one. It was turn one though. That's the bit. That's the worst bit somehow.
Okay, here we go.
Drawing.
From Picmar, he has mulligan down to 3, as we said before, and that's a 1/1/1 hand. There's one of the worst opening hands you will ever see in Keyforge.
Brutal. And like Mars first, which you want with a creature.
Mm-hmm.
Poke with nothing to poke.
Nope. Although
And
if Xiar plays Logos, he'll be able to poke the Skippy Time Hog, but you've got to assume he's going to play Sanctum.
Probably yes. I assume either the Zealot or the Eye of Judgment.
I'd go with the Zealot. You know, you get a Reap for it. Why not? Oh, Baldric the Bold. Interesting. I guess just counting on the fact that he's got time.
I'm not even sure it's that. I think you go for the rush. Right? You know that your opponent's going to be slogging through these chains for a good portion of the game. So you want to try and get as much Ember as quickly as possible.
Just get stuff on the board, yeah. I can see that as well. So now we're going to see Eye of Judgment, the Zealot. I'm going to see, yep, just a couple of reach from Jar. That's a 4 Ember.
Plays the Radiant Truth.
To no response thus far.
Okay, worth noting on the timer, we are coming down to 35 minutes. So they now have about the normal length of Keyforge to finish this adaptive match.
Okay, so I think, yeah, we're going to see Untamed, get this Tantadlin down, and probably just return both Sanctum cards to Jar's hand. Slow him down a bit. He has to replay them.
Yeah, and I think at this point you want to be playing as many cards as possible.
Oh god, yeah.
Until you start to hit some of the combos you're looking for.
Yeah, and he's got to be looking for that Heart of the Forest at this point. He's got to just be like, right, I only need Heart of the Forest, and he needs to slow this game down as much as possible.
Just discards the
Tantadlin.
Does not care.
Interesting. I can't see why. I suppose he knows he's got Baldric the Bold, and so the Baldric Bold can just attack Tantadlin as many times as it wants and keep getting 2 Ember off each attack.
So, good call there, I think.
But gotta be disappointed to see the regrowth in hand.
Yeah.
You've got to see him playing Logos anyway. And we might see the Skippy Time Hog being played, which would be a perfect poke target. Odd Clawed. And he plays the Skippy Time Hog. We're going to see the Skippy Time Hog get poked.
It's gonna draw.
You love to see it.
It's also, I think, an aspect of the chains is that Azawin has basically no Ember control. So if you go to 6, you go to Forge.
Yeah.
In fact, it literally cannot stop someone forging a key with 6. I don't think.
It can't. But
it just has
Heart of the Forest is how you stop someone forging at 6, actually.
And there it is. Okay, so it's got the Heart of the Forest. And he drew a Logos card off the poke. So
he did, yeah. He got that Professor Suck.
The Heart of the Forest is now there. So he's going to have as much time as he wants.
I think
set up.
We're going to see a pain reaction here, potentially, with some Dis from Xiar, just to get rid of that Sutterkin and Archimedes.
Maybe hold the Infernus because you've nothing big to Infernus yet.
No, I don't think you hold it. I think it's like you say, you just want to get stuff down. You want to just get through the deck as quick as possible. And get on check like he has done. Yeah, he is playing the Infernus.
Hit Sutterkin something else.
Nature's Call and Poke, yeah. Takes a bit of Ember off him. Nature's Call is really useful for stuff like the Chota Hazri. But yeah, I think we're going to probably see the Heart of the Forest from Picmar here. Just as I've been saying, really put the handbrake on the game. He's down to 8 chains as well, so not that far off a 5-card hand.
But still a long way to go yet.
It is, but it's the kind of thing now where Jar's going to force a key, but Pigmar's getting the Heart of the Forest down. Does he care? Oh, he's playing Mars. Interesting.
Well, he doesn't need the Heart of the Forest.
He doesn't. I suppose, yeah, there's no benefit to playing it this turn. But why is he archiving? I guess archiving the Mars first?
You can't archive the Mars first because No, because you're still in the process of resolving the effects of Mars
Oh,
first. As in, as you'll be.
that might have been a slip up from Picmar then, because he hasn't archived anything.
No, but he gets the reap.
And he
The thing
does,
is,
but
I think you just have to be supremely confident at this point. Especially if you know that your opponent's playing your deck. He probably knows that there's no good answer to Heart of the Forest.
no, there's not.
Except some niche cases with some capture.
Yeah, and you know your deck, so you know what that capture is going to look like and how to get around it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how this game's going to go. I'm very intrigued. I mean, we're surely going to see Untamed now. We're going to see the Heart of the Forest and maybe regrowth the Proliferator. I could see.
Perhaps the Proliferator. I'd be wary of picking up a card that I couldn't immediately play
I would, but
because of the
then
chains.
yeah, but it's still you're going to draw, say, what, one more card, and is the likelihood that you're going to draw something better that you'd want more than the Proliferator? I don't know. I suppose, yeah, the other option is, like, say, Tantadlin and discard it again, or play the Tantadlin.
We'll see what he does.
And yeah, regrowth.
I just think anything that makes you hold cards at this point is quite painful.
It's like you say, look, he's got the Heart of the Forest down. He's in no hurry.
We'll see if he plays it now.
I can't believe he doesn't. I can't believe the reason he took 12 chains is because he knew he could play Heart of the Forest. And that he could slow the game down.
He won the previous game without it.
Yeah, but he won the previous game without having 12 chains from the start.
True.
And it wasn't the most comfortable win. He's keeping it in hand. That is interesting.
Why?
I don't know. I can't.
There's no removal on the other side to avoid. It can only just be just weighing up whether he doesn't need it.
Like, I can't see in what situation he wouldn't need it.
Because the deck has 16 pips in it and goes through it pretty quickly, and he's starting to get down off his chains.
I mean, I would reiterate it goes through it pretty quickly when it doesn't have 12 chains on it.
True. You've got Brig to essentially potentially win you the game.
You do. This is an odd play for me. I'll be honest. I just, if nothing else, to get a pip and also draw another card at the end of the day. Like,
yeah, I wouldn't have kept it, to be honest. But we'll see.
I get maybe he doesn't want Xiar to know that he's got it, but
that's potentially true, because the longer you know that you have it, the more time you have to set up your counters to it. Which in this case would probably be capturing Ember where possible, and getting ready to hit someone with the Spirit's Way.
Yeah.
We'll see whether he plays it now. So we have to assume not.
You could play, Persistent Hunting on the Dis. Fogbanks, stop any fighting happening. Doesn't play it.
Doesn't play it. So he's clearly sticking.
He's got the Flotsam Spike here then. So, got to assume he's going to go for a Mars turn next, just to clear the board. And if Xiar goes for a big Sanctum board here, this could be devastating.
Potentially, yeah. I think you probably wouldn't overcommit though. You've got to know that the deck that you brought has a Flotsam Spike in it.
The thing is, though, I suppose the options you have are you play a Logos turn to play some Redacted, or you just you want to just get your Sanctum out your hand, play some cards, do some Keyforge. Bulwark.
He's going Sanctum.
Got Champion Anafiel as well.
Draws the Champion Anafiel off the Bulwark and is going to draw another card off the Champion Anafiel.
He's not played any Sanctum yet either, so the likelihood of drawing more Sanctum is pretty likely. She gets the Spirit's Way. Discards both the Spirit's Ways.
Spirit's Ways. I suppose when you have this sort of board dominance, then you know that your
Purges Galixal Proliferator. Yeah.
Good call.
Makes sense.
Oh, this is gonna feel so bad in a second, though.
Boulder. Oh, he's gonna have the zealot on the end as well. Oof. That puts a damage on the anguish. Makes sense. Up that key cost a bit. And yeah, plays Gizelhart's Zealot. Oof. Oh no, it's on the other side, so he's going to at least keep Baldric and Zealot alive. So maybe playing around the Flocksmith Spike a bit there, actually.
Maybe, but I think if you have your mind even half on Flux and Spike, you don't play out the Sanctum creatures there.
I mean, yeah, but what else do you do with them? There's no point discarding them.
I mean, I guess it's a calculated gamble, right?
I think you just play them because the way you look at it is, if I keep them in hand, I'm chaining myself, which I don't want to do. If I discard them, then they're dead cards anyway. I might as well put them on the board on the chance that he doesn't have the Flock and Spike, which he's got 19 cards left in his deck. There's a decent chance he doesn't. And
I mean, I just think I would have taken the Logos turn there.
Reap for 2 and play a redacted and only play one card. I just don't think that's worth it.
Get to check, play redacted. Anyway, it's got Mars, so he's got a destructive analysis something.
And he gets to check anyway because of the Dino Fiend stealing one.
True, very true.
And he's now got more Logos cards in hand. So yeah, he's played the Flotsam Spike. You've got to assume we're going to see a destructive analysis probably on the Zealot, just to get some damage down. And maybe not play the Think Drone and not give Baldric a target. I could see that going either way.
Possibly, yeah, I think.
I think he might. I think he probably will play it because he's just seen a very large Sanctum turn. You've got to assume he's not going to play another Sanctum turn, but yep, does discard it.
And he now has the Generosity in hand.
Yep.
So if he gets taken off check here,
which seems likely because you've got to assume he's going to play a Logos turn and he's going to play. He might play the Titan and the Daughter to knock him off check, but he also might let him forge, knowing the Generosity is a possibility.
And that's a common anti-generosity play. But doesn't. We'll see if he goes for it.
He does put it in the middle. Oof.
Yeah, that seems like an error against Martian generosity. You don't, generally speaking, want to leave someone on 6 Ember like that when you're playing against a generosity deck.
You don't. I mean, I think we haven't seen the key abduction either, so I think we are going to see.
Nope. Yeah, it's going to draw 12 cards. Sorry,
14 cards.
And there are what? How many left? I can't quite see.
16. So going to have 2 left. We'll be very unlucky not to see the key abduction here.
But he's 2 keys to nothing down.
He is. But you can't see Xiar forging next turn, and he's got the Heart of the Forest if he needs it.
Yeah, which he will.
You've got to assume so at this point. He will, yeah.
Okay, here we go. So now the Heart of the Forest comes down.
It depends how many pips actually does he have in Mars, though. Because if you can get to check, this goes for... Goes for Untamed.
Just wanted to put that Heart of the Forest down. Now the game begins, essentially. So they're trying to... So what's Picmar trying to set up here? He's got the general...
I'm unclear as to what the reasoning behind that was. I don't understand why you wouldn't have just played the Martian Generosity turn, especially when there's a risk here that you forge, which it then becomes harder to do Generosity later because you've got to build up that Ember again.
Yeah, it's tricky. And when you're still going through these chains, it becomes harder to build up the Ember you need for the Generosity.
Yeah. It seems a strange play when Xiar wasn't at any risk of forging. I can't think of a single way that Xiar could forge. But here we are. We see some capture coming down. And we're going to see Vizima Think Drone purged from the discard pile.
Okay. So he's starting to build up the captured Ember you need to get past this Heart of the Forest.
He is. And you've got to assume now we're going to see Feels like I feel like a broken record, but you've got to assume you're going to see the Martian Generosity this turn.
Do you? Do you though? I don't know anymore. I think Picmar is just operating on a different set of considerations that I'm not seeing.
He's playing Logos.
Standardized testing?
Discards the Strange Gizmo. Plays presumably the standardized testing to get rid of the Titan Engineer.
I think he's holding the Martian Generosity for key 3. He has to. That's how he wins. He wins with either a big Untamed key cheat or a massive Mars key cheat. And I think if you've got the Generosity in hand, you Martian Generosity.
Yeah, and I suppose with the Proliferator gone, you can't.
Wait, hold on. Let me think about this. Because if you Jenka and then hit the key abduction, your opponent forges before you go for the Untamed turn.
Yeah, this is what's confusing
and
me.
he's got the Obsidian Forge down now.
This is what.
So whether Xiar now just has the setup required to win this, because now with the Obsidian Forge out, unless Picmar can get rid of it, then they need to forge 2 keys in 1 turn to win this.
Yes.
And I don't know how you do that.
Stirring Gravy's gonna archive the Inferno. So Picmar has to do the Martian Generosity now. This feels like now or never, because if you don't do it now, you're gonna start to get cards purged, and you're gonna have less Ember to do it with next turn. Like, you can get it for 12 here. You're gonna definitely draw the key abduction. You're gonna be able to forge a key with the key abduction. There we go. Place the Dominator. Plays Ancient Human. He doesn't play the Generosity.
I think he's working for that's his out.
I guess as well, like, Xiar can't even just like build up Ember at this point. Oh no, he can, because he can't even do Brig, because if he Brigs, then he loses.
Well, the graph never goes off because he never forges a key. And game's over when he does.
Yeah.
So he just generates enough Ember, and then eventually will be able to, in a situation where he can
Obsidian Forge for 0.
And we did talk about the scenario in our sort of intro deck discussion, that there's a chance that Xiar can get to this deck can get to the point where you can win the game with it.
Yeah, I think this is getting towards that point. I mean, you've got repeatable purge with stuff like your like the Infernus. I mean, does the deck also have the discard that is it Mindfire that purges a card, that discards a card from the opponent's hand?
It does not.
It does not. Okay.
A relevant consideration is is this going to go to time?
Potentially. I mean, yeah, you've got 18 minutes left, and if it goes to time, Xiar is surely going to win, because he's going to have a hell of a lot more Ember than Picmar can presumably generate.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, yeah, because all Xiar needs to do here is just keep generating Ember, and he's gonna have so much Ember that the moment Picmar forges a key, right, so.
And this is the
sort
of situation.
Titan Librarians.
Yeah, so it's good archive stuff. And this is the sort of situation that makes people really hate Heart of the Forest.
Yeah.
Is that if you're on the other side of this, you just kind of have to sit there, and you can do the odd thing, but mostly it's just waiting for your opponent to get to the position where they can win.
Yeah, in this case, it's presumably going to be Xiar just killing, anything on the boards that Picmar has, and then reaping a bunch. And he's got the Maleficorn, so he can kill anything with damage on. He's got the Dominator Bauble to reap the things outside of houses. Um, interesting thought with the Titan Librarian there. And it plays the Dino Fiend. Maybe put some, yeah, exalts to put some damage. There we go.
I mean, I just don't
Plays
know.
the
So,
Infernus. He's,
yep, just gonna hit the Titan Librarian, perhaps.
I mean, we'll see. There's a lot of things in the discard to choose from at this point.
Okay, so Xiar has the
Mars versus Persistence Hunting. Just getting rid of the actions.
get rid of the
Waking
pigs.
Nightmares up the key cost. And Jar
Is
is technically on check.
is there a way out of this for Picmar? We talked earlier in the match about a Martian Generosity Witch of the Wilds Choda play. Is that a real thing, or did we just imagine this as a possibility?
Oh no, it's a real play. You need it. Actually, I say it's a real play. It depends how many Ember Pips there are in Mars. I don't have a deck list in front of me, so I don't know. Um,
5, including the Martian Generosity itself.
then no.
But two of them are Mars firsts. So
Okay, and at least one of them has been
bursting.
purged at this point as well.
Okay.
So
15 minutes left.
I
Picmar is at no keys and 1 Ember. In hand has Jenka.
Yeah.
But that's not enough. Can't play that.
I don't think he even has any good way of getting Ember either.
No, because especially he can't play the Jenka because as soon as he does, it just gets purged with the Infernus.
I think so. I think sadly here, I think Pigmon may have waited too long to pull off that Martian Generosity. I think you needed to do it kind of 2 or 3 turns ago when you had a lot of Ember and just kind of go for it. And now Xiar has created a situation in which, with things like the Maleficorn, he can functionally just kill whatever Pigmon puts on the board and just reap for a bunch and just build up the Ember. And if this does go to time, you can have so much Ember that Picmar won't have a way to stop him.
Perhaps worth noting that Picmar has now finally reached a full hand of 6.
Oh, well, that's very nice. So yeah, we're going to see Dis from Xiar.
I mean, this is.
I think we're gonna see. I'm surprised he fought the Dominate with the Maleficon. I would have thought he would have hit it with the pain reaction and then used Maleficon's action to destroy it.
You're thinking of his recog.
Am I? I see.
You are. Maleficon is also pretty good. It basically doubles any damage pips that you have.
Yes, that is what I was thinking of. Well, apologies. I have been thinking of the wrong card this entire time.
I mean, it just barely matters. This is right. I think Xiar's absolutely doing the right thing, which is just capturing a bunch of Ember.
Yeah.
Assuming that either you're going to have a situation where you can make them forge unexpectedly.
Yeah. Purge some cards from Picmar's discard that are going to cause you trouble. So I imagine it'll be another couple of actions that give you Ember.
Yep.
In this case, Flotsam Spike and Fogbank. Flotsam Spike, so the board clear's gone.
Yep.
Fogbank, so they can fight and just keep knocking whatever he puts down off the board. I think short of doing a banter binate rupture play, I don't know what Picmar can do at this point. And yeah, he's just killed the Cumex with the Obsidian Forge. So a little bit more card draw if he chooses to play Logos next.
I think Picmar's out is something like you Jenka for key 1 and then have enough cards to do some crazy untamed nonsense. But I still don't think it works because Xiar has the key cheats. He has the Obsidian Forge.
Yeah, and I think it's like, how do you get enough Ember to do that at
I
this
don't know.
point? With the Infernus keep being recurred, with all the capture, with your board clear now gone, you've got Save the Pack, which you can kill one thing at the moment with. You've got Exterminate, which you haven't got any Mars creatures to do anything with. Flotsam Spike's now been purged. It's not a great situation that Picmar's found himself in, unfortunately.
I think possibly doomed. Well, we have 11 minutes and
You
17
are a
seconds to
man
find
who
out.
likes to call things doomed.
I think it's warranted here.
Yeah,
I think
I would agree. I would agree.
I'm scratching my brain and I can't find a good way for Picmar to come back and
Picmar's
pull this off.
discarded the Binate Rupture.
No comedy Ember Turtles here.
No comedy Ember totals. One of my favourite games of Keyforge was once I was playing a deck with the Sting in, so I was also not forging. And I had the game won, and I was playing against one of my good friends, Marvin, and I'd got to 33 Ember, and being the good sport that he is, he played the Binate Rupture, so I ended on 66 Ember. Enough Ember to forge 11 keys, and it was a good time was had by all. He did not have anything like too much protect or interdimensional graft either.
And it's also just edging towards being able to forge some redacted keys as well.
I mean, he can't forge redacted keys though. That's the problem.
No, but it's just setting up a situation where there's going to be three keys.
Yeah.
So Picmar now has potentially all of the pieces that they might need in hand, but then no way to do anything with any of them.
No. I mean, you can play a Save the Pack here to get 2 of them back. That's not enough to get the Trota Hazri. You can Martian Generosity for 4 cards, which would be one of the saddest Martian Generosities ever Martian Generositied. 6 if you play the Key Abduction 2. It's not looking good.
Now, thanks to opposition research, can't even reap. No reaping from Picmar.
No. I feel like that's not too big a problem for him currently.
No, it's not going to make the biggest deal.
No. Yeah, playing the Untamed. I guess save the pack just to get rid of some creatures, get yourself some member back. He's going to go back on chain, sadly, but
it's just a glutton for punishment at this point.
Yeah, it's what he does with the Trota Hazri though, because the Infernus knocking around. I suppose he's going to flip his deck soon, so it's not going to keep it in hand.
You hold it because you need it to have any chance of pulling this off. But you're in a situation where you do the thing that you think gives you a chance to win, even if the odds of that are incredibly slim or basically non-existent.
Yeah. Ooh. Has the Nature's Call been purged? I don't recall.
I don't recall either. I don't remember when we saw that very early on, remember?
We did. And I feel like it would be one of the top things you'd want to purge, especially with an Infernus, because it would lose that person in Ember, and we're going to see Bold with the Bold get now a total of 16 for Xiar, which is quite a lot of Ember. One of the higher Ember totals you'll probably see in the fair game of Keyforge. I think there might be even an argument for Screaming Cave here from Xiar. I can't really see him playing a Sanctum turn that much in the near future. No, he does keep it. Fair enough. Discard those Spirit's Ways the old-fashioned way. He's got some draw on both Champion Anafiel and the Bulwark, so I can see that too. Okay, let's see what Picmar does here.
Might actually take a Mars turn.
You got to assume so. I feel
you could have a cheeky because you're about to reshuffle with the Martian Generosity. So,
I mean, you've got Exterminate, so you could kill something, I guess.
Gamble on drawing gamble on drawing a Proliferator and a Mars first? Are they still about?
I guess actually, I guess what you could do is you can play Dominator, play the Exterminate to kill the Titan Engineer, for example, and then you can Generosity for 10 cards.
Yeah, pretty solid.
Solid turn, yeah. Wouldn't be enough to forge a key, but you know, something might get you closer to that big Untamed turn that you're kind of looking for.
I mean, you've got to be despairing at this point if you pick Picmar.
Yeah, especially with the clock running down as well. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah.
The clock's running down. It's do you actually have time to do these things you want to do?
Yeah, you don't, I think.
There you go. So yeah, seen the Dominator. Just place the Dominator. That's I guess. Yeah, Xiar's not really got a good way of killing it.
God, I see this as a certain form of karmic moral punishment for Xiar.
Is it? I mean, he brought the Heart of the Forest.
Yeah, and it's now sitting through this nonsense.
No, I feel like if you're
Of a
playing a
game.
Heart of the Forest deck, you have to quite enjoy this kind of thing. And as someone who plays decks that are very board control heavy and generally very focused on stopping the other person from doing things, I can respect a man who enjoys this kind of play, this kind of grind. I know you don't, Callum. I know you think there's one of the worst people in the world, but personally, I've got a little bit of respect for this guy.
I mean, this is turn 16. I'm going to say that most of my Keyforge games don't go past about turn 9.
Yeah, mostly because you've lost by turn 9.
Yeah, usually. Sometimes I win by turn 8.
Those are the two options: win by turn 8, lose by turn 9. There's no other games for Callum.
I did look at the stats with one of my decks once, and it was like, if the game goes more than 10 turns, the odds of me winning it plummet massively. It was like a genuine graphic evidence of how the deck works.
Yeah, I think we're going to see the Spirit's Ways discarded here, unless Xiar has decided to commit Keyforge suicide.
Well, even then, he could play the Spirit's Way, give him all that Ember back. He would only forge one key.
Yeah.
And even then, Xiar has still got this. Because he can't forge 2 keys in one turn. So he would forge a second key either with Shoda or Jenka and then lose.
Especially now the Witch of the Wilds has been purged. So we can't even do... We definitely can't do that on time turn now. So Dominator's removed its stun. Mars first. Maybe to hit something with Ember on, I've got to assume.
All of them except one.
Yeah. You know, something...
Reaps.
And then now it's got to be... Yeah, kill the Titan Guardian.
Okay, we're actually going to see a Jenka now. I think we are.
He's not got enough. We're not, because he's not got enough Ember to get enough cards to do the key abduction. You need to get to 15 cards, and he's going to get to 13.
Yeah, he draw 12.
No, he draws 5.
Draw 10. Yep, he's not even going to make that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is grim.
And he doesn't... Yeah, it doesn't...
Nope, just going to wait till next turn, maybe.
I mean, if the Dominator lives that long, then I'll be surprised Pikachu face.
It might. I'm glad we had two quite interesting, or like one interesting middle game that was very fascinating. And
I think we've kind of seen the 3 ways this matchup can go, which is it can just be won incredibly quickly and decisively by this deck by just the pure speed of it. You can have like a bit more of like a back and forth kind of cagey match, which we saw in the middle. And then we're kind of seeing, this is the match that, as we say, why people do quite dislike Heart of the Forest, because it puts you in this situation where one player just has to kind of sit there and just kind of control the board, make some Ember, and just essentially wait till time hits, while the other player kind of frantically tries to like finagle their hand in a way where they can forge 2 keys in a turn. But we've seen Xiar manage this very well, and you've got to think that this is a deck he's probably been on the other side of this
Yeah,
before.
he knows what will stop it on that side.
Yeah, and knows how to just kind of stall out the game and is prepared to do it.
Scott.
I think we now see at last. I think we are going to see the Forge actually because he's now got enough cards in
Yep.
hand to forge a key.
And
But
I guess the next question is whether he will have enough to show the key charge next turn.
I got to assume he's going to play the Dominator, and then I would think kill the Anguish. Actually,
Yep.
yeah. But
destructive analysis on something.
Probably the Daughter.
Maybe Scrivener, Fabian.
Yeah, Scrivener Fabian doesn't die though.
Oh no, it doesn't. So
And he's got
Daughter is correct.
Yeah.
So can now Full Moon and Choda next turn, but it's still not enough.
Yeah, because he can't if he.
Oh, maybe now you can Binate Rupture next turn to give yourself enough to forge, and then no, it still doesn't work.
No.
Yes,
You're looking at the end of game procedure.
Looking at the time things still doesn't work because Xiar can hit the Obsidian Forge.
Yeah,
doesn't work. You had to forge two keys in one turn.
You do.
And he's now going to do the play where he will Spirits Away, give him all that captured amber back, make him forge for 6, leaving him with 0 to forge. Very high risk though, because you know that he's almost got it. Does he now? Oh, the time runs out now.
Hang on.
Can he now do this?
He's got Full Moon. He's got what, 5?
Okay, 1.
No, I don't. He's got the Regrowth. 2.
I don't think he can do it.
No, I think he's 1 short.
He's more than 1 short, I think.
No, I think he's just 1 short. Because if he regrowths a creature, I don't know if he has any creatures untamed in the discard. No, he would be if he had another creature in discard. He would have been 1 short, I think.
I mean, yeah, I assume Xiar knew that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, fair play to him. Did what he needed to do in that massive time period.
Yeah,
to just
kept the focus.
Just shut down any opportunity of the Heart of the Forest deck coming back.
But yeah, I think the Spirits Way play was unnecessary. I guess like he knew he kind of counted it. He'd worked it out. He knew that.
It's what you would normally do to counter a Heart of the Forest deck, but I think with time running out, maybe just didn't want to win on time. I suppose.
Yeah, just wanted to go for the style play, which we can all appreciate.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So that match goes to Xiar.
Yeah, I think interesting game. Like I said, I think this is a big example as to why a lot of people do dislike these kinds of decks, is that it does slow the game down, and it kind of forces the other person into kind of almost a solitaire-like game where they are just kind of doing stuff with their board and the other person isn't doing much and is waiting for the perfect time, which isn't always very entertaining to play against.
Yeah. But it worked out for him, I guess. 12 chains is that what swung it, do you think? Was there a chance that Picmar could have won that game on 6 or 7 chains?
I think to an extent it does, because I think it allows him to get stuff like the Infernus out and get that recurring to like purge the useful things he needs. It kind of forces Picmar to hold cards and kind of like slow down his way through his deck, which you can kind of see that the deck can win very quickly. So he didn't have that option, and it was always going to go to the Heart of the Forest. And I think at the point that it goes to the Heart of the Forest, then Azawin's owner knows, then Xiar knows how to stop it winning. And I think probably the reason that Xiar let Picmar have it at 12 chains was because he knew he could stop it, and he knew that given enough time, he could stop it. And that's when he set up a board where there's nothing that Picmar could do.
Just kept capturing things in front of the eye, set up the like Spirits Way play, which is how you would do it anyway.
Yeah, I'm still unsure as to whether he maybe should have marshaled generosity earlier. I don't know enough about playing Genka decks and combo decks to know whether that assessment was correct. I assume that it probably wasn't, and that Picmar had a very good reason for not doing that.
Yeah, I think he was just saving it to set up the Kichi. Like he wanted to Kichi at the right time
Mm.
to set up the Heart of the Forest win.
Yeah, I think it just maybe waiting for that perfect time. He waited too long and allowed Xiar to get in too strong a position. And
Possibly, I
you know,
think.
it's the purging of the Flotsam Spike, which sounds like the weirdest
Yeah,
Shakespeare
that's what
play ever.
I don't think I would watch that, to be honest.
I don't know. You know, I feel like you'd give it a go. I'd
Maybe.
go for a matinee, maybe. Um,
Either way, you knew enough to take out the pieces.
yeah, I think the Flotsam Spike was actually the really crucial one in that it it meant that at that point John knew if he sets up this board of all of these creatures, he can just keep the Ember captured, and like we said earlier, he can force Picmar to forge a key when he doesn't want to, and yeah, and he had enough. He could keep recurring using stuff like the Eye of Judgment to purge untamed cards from the discard pouch. You saw him doing a lot to stop the regrowth Shura Hazri. You could see him purging, for example, Mars actions a lot to stop the Master Generosities going off as well. And Logos he only left alone because Logos wasn't going to win him the game at the point where he's already on two keys. You can't do
Yeah, I mean
Binate
it's
Rupture Graft.
so it's interesting. It's a good. I think overall, as an assessment, is a good example of why adaptive is an interesting skill testing format.
Mm,
Because
definitely.
we had game one where the better deck crushed the weaker deck.
Mm-hmm.
Game two where Picmar showed a reasonable amount of skill in playing a deck that he was unfamiliar with,
Yeah, I think he showed quite a lot of
showing
skill
why
actually. Yeah.
so showing why he deserves to be in this league, having besides having won the UK Vault Tour.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as if that's not enough. Like showing, let me rephrase that. Showing like the sort of skill you would expect from someone who won the UK Vault Tour. Um, and then we saw what it looks like with chains, in that Xiar knew that at a certain point they would be able to take apart all the key pieces within Furnace and with the purges because they knew which bits were the most important.
Yeah,
They know how to set up a Heart for Forest win, and so they know how to stop it.
exactly. And they've probably been stopped multiple times, and you know from painful experience as well.
Yeah, possibly so.
Okay, well, thank you very much for listening. I think this was an interesting game. It's not very standard Keyforge game. It is two very kind of unorthodox decks grappling against each other, and I think again, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, really showed why a lot of people do dislike Heart of the Forest, but also showed why it is an interesting card in that it changes the game completely. You know, that last game was not like any other game of Keyforge you will see that doesn't have Heart of the Forest in, and
Yeah,
I think it was actually interesting to watch as a result.
yeah, and it
Uh,
shows the variety in the game, which is something I do
exactly.
quite like.
Yeah, it's interesting variety in that you had three games that ended completely differently.
Completely differently, yeah,
Yeah, even
wildly
though we're
different.
using the same two decks. Okay, well, thank you very much for listening. My name is David Baron von Fabius Lark.
And I am Callum, the good Doctor Young.
We've been Scoochby on Commentaries, and thank you very much for listening. Hope to see you again soon.
Bye bye.